So part of my New Year existential crisis revolved around wanting to branch out the content on my channel. So this is me doing just that. I am bringing these monthly media videos, if that's what I end up calling them. So I thought I would split them up between movies and TV shows, because I feel like it would be a very long video if I decided to do them together. Ain't nobody got time for that, you know? So here are the movies that I watched in January. I'm just going to put it out there. A lot of the things that I watch are rewatches because I really enjoy, once I found stuff that I love, just going back and revisiting it. And yeah. On that note, the very first movie that I watched this year was a rewatch. I think it was probably on New Year's Day because I had to stay on brand, and it is Wonder Woman from 2017, director Patty Jenkins. This is my favorite movie of all time. I know that the villain of the story is very underwhelming, underdeveloped, but the whole film in itself is just wonderful. I don't really like Gal Gadot as a person, like, at all, but I think she's perfect in the part, which makes me so bitter. I think the imagery and cinematography in the film is beautiful. I think it stays very true to my depiction of Diana as a character. It's one of my favorite takes on Wonder Woman because it has that sort of naivete and ingenuity and just the pure heart of her, and it mixes it with, you know, the kick-ass, and it's so beautiful. And then Steve Trevor is a beautiful man. Chris Pine does a wonderful job. The dialogue is very poignant. The whole film itself is just beautiful, and the no man's land scene is the height of cinematography, and that is that. I'm sorry, I don't make the rules. That's a solid 5 out of 5 stars for me. And then the first film that I saw in the cinema was The Greatest Showman. That's directed by Michael Gracie. I went and saw that with my sister, also pretty early on in the year. And see, my feelings on that one are slightly more conflicting because I highly enjoyed the movie as I was watching it, despite, you know, that little part of my brain being like, red flag. But it's very enjoyable as a movie in itself. But just going into it, I already knew that the real P.T. Barnum was trash. So obviously, The Greatest Showman follows P.T. Barnum. So that was a little. Couldn't you just have made a fictional character and not called him that? Because I don't think people are going into the film because it's about P.T. Barnum. If they are, God bless their souls. What are they doing with their lives? Because he was trash. And I feel like the movie in itself feels a little bit ableist. I'm not very much into the attitude that it has towards deformity and all that. Jen Campbell has a wonderful video on it that's more poignant than anything I could ever say, and I will link that down below. I think the movie is fabulous. I think the costumes are wonderful. I think the cast is just, it's perfect. Zac Efron, what a beautiful man. And Zendaya, oh my god. Hugh Jackman. Y'all, Hugh Jackman, I love him. The music is made by the people that made the music for La La Land and Dear Evan Hansen, which are two pieces of media that I highly enjoyed. So I've been listening to the soundtrack non-stop. But the more I intellectualize the film, the more like, I don't know. I really love the idea about, you know, following your dreams and then underdogs accepting who they are. I'm a sucker for anything that's rooting for an underdog and promotes self-love and self-acceptance, but it's hard, it's rough. And then at the end, but they had to put a P.T. Barnum quote, and I'm like, this has got to be a joke. So yeah, I would say that's maybe a 3 stars just because I can't fully immerse myself into the story knowing that it's trash. Then the next film that my sister and I went to see in the cinema was Pitch Perfect 3, directed by Trish C. Those are my feelings on it. It's very It's funny, but I would definitely say it's the absolute weakest by far of the franchise. It's definitely one of those things that sort of kept going downhill. I love the cast, I love the acting, a few of the jokes were very, really, you're doing that, and I'm very invested in the characters. If you don't know by now how Pitch Perfect, the whole thing follows this a cappella group from a university, and then this third one follows them sort of reuniting because most of them have graduated by now. Still enjoyable. It's just one of those things that you can wait to see on Netflix as opposed to wasting your money in the cinema. And then another rewatch because, of course, I rewatched The Devil Wears Prada, that's directed by David Frankel. It came out in 2006. I've watched and rewatched and re-rewatched it countless times since then. It stars Anne Hathaway, Meryl Streep, Emily Blunt. It's fabulous. And it follows this girl, Andy, who's just graduating now. She's living in New York, trying to make a life for herself as a journalist. Except guess what? The only job she can maybe kind of have a chance at is being an assistant to this lady that runs a fashion magazine. But of course, Andy is an intellectual, so shallow things such as fashion are beneath her. So, I really love this film, which it's kind of trash, but I love it so much. But Andy is literally the worst. There's not one decent character in this whole film, and I think the more I rewatch it, the more I seem to realize that, but I still love it nevertheless. My enjoyment of it never goes downhill. So we've already established the characters are the worst, starting with Andy herself. The romance, I would rather choke. The dynamics between the characters, there's literally no support between women in this film, and that's a very missed opportunity. I don't know what to tell you, except that I just love it. Can I explain it? Not really. The fashion of it, sometimes fabulous, mostly just very questionable. Emily Blunt has that really intense green eyeshadow of the early 2000s. It gives me breathing problems whenever I see it. But if you're into The Devil Wears Prada but actually want some more meaning behind that, let me do you a favor and tell you that you should most definitely watch The Bold Type on Freeform, ABC, what even is it called these days? It's a TV show. It has that corporate element. It has that young woman trying to make it. One of them is a journalist specifically. Except the boss is so supportive, and then the girls among themselves, they're never in a competition. They're always supportive of each other. It's just the best. Then I was spiraling in a spiral of self-pity and just feeling miserable about life and myself. So I thought I would ride that wave and also revisit an old fave. I haven't seen it in a while, but it's one of my all-time favorite films. That is The Perks of Being a Wallflower. That's directed by Steven Chbosky, and it's based on a book by him. It's like produced by him, written by him, all the shiz. It came out in 2012, and it stars some of my absolute favorite people and actors of all time. It's Emma Watson, Logan Lerman, Ezra Miller, Nina Dobrev is in there. I love it so much. So basically, it follows, just like the book, this kid Charlie, who is just starting high school. His best friend committed suicide the prior year, and it's just him trying to navigate life and deal with mental health and trying to make friends. And it's a very heartfelt story. There's a lot. So trigger warnings for, I don't even remember, I think there's abuse, because there's this one boyfriend that hits the girlfriend. There's some mention of sexual abuse. Then there is, you know, the whole mental health aspect, and there's a suicide attempt. So, you know, trigger warnings for all those things. And there's also, I think it's one of those things that doesn't quite age well. There's this one particular line that's, you know, sort of one of the most popular of the book slash film, is that Sam is not a bulimic, she's a bulimist. I love bulimia, I believe in bulimia, all that. Like, that's not exactly politically correct. There are some lines in there that just don't age well, knowing the things about language and what you should and shouldn't say that we know now. But it still holds a special place in my heart, so I'm quite biased. The acting, again, is beautiful. It has that whole theme about rooting for the underdog and watching this one kid, and Paul Rudd is in it, just saying. I don't know why that just came to my mind now, but yeah, it's very heartfelt, it's very soft. The music is beautiful. You have the Smiths and Bowie, and it has this very indie film vibe to it at times that I quite like. The aesthetic of it is really cool, and I just love it. And then, speaking of rewatching old faves, I was waiting for my sleeping pills to kick in before leaving for London on the 25th. So I wanted to rewatch another old fave that I hadn't revisited in a while, but that I used to watch constantly back in the day. So I settled on What If, and that came out in 2013. It is directed by Michael Dowsey. I don't know how you pronounce his name. Yeah, anyway, and that is a rom-com, I suppose, starring Daniel Radcliffe. You heard well, Harry Potter himself. And then Zoe Kazan, Adam Driver, who plays Kylo fucking Ren, is in it. I just love it. It's about this guy and gal that meet at a party. They're both very awkward, very sarcastic, very spunky, and they just become friends. And it's about them trying to navigate that whole boy-girl friendship. And it's a bit of a will day, one day. It's very witty. I love the dialogue. I love it so much. I love the humor in it. I love the acting. Again, it has a very indie film vibe to it. It's just lovely, and I would highly recommend it. I think it's maybe a 4.5, because there might be some idea that I didn't like. I don't know. It's just really, really good. So anyway, that's what I've been watching, at least until the point where I'm filming this video. But to be fair, it is the 30th of January, so will I really watch anything else? Who knows? But if I do, I will include that in my February monthly media for movies, films, or whatever. But if you do want to keep posted on what I watch, what I feel about them, I will link my Letterboxd down below. That's a bit like a Goodreads for films, so you can keep up with what I want to watch, what I'm watching, what I'm rating them. Not that great at being consistent on there, but I'm trying my best. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you some other time.